So the next definition is commercial hollow metal door, and it's the reason that we're all here. Commercial hollow metal doors have been manufactured for several decades, and probably mid-20th century they would have been called factory doors. As far as I know, I don't believe the term commercial hollow metal door was used. Factory doors, the ones that I've seen, and here where I am right now in Chicago, and actually in a very old neighborhood of Chicago, you would have seen them on every door that's here. The building I'm in right now is 125 years old at least, if not 150, and this would have been full of factory doors. And the factory doors that I've most commonly seen were paneled, actually, extremely heavy doors that had a panel feature to them. I can't really tell you the gauge, but just my experience tells me they were at least 16 gauge. So at some point, obviously, the manufacturing process must have led, I would imagine, along with the continual discovery of making things less costly to manufacture, led to the modern commercial hollow metal door. And a door is a door is a door. And it just is, until you get into all of the details of the door, the nuances, and those elements that are variables when it comes to commercial hollow metal doors would very commonly be size, obviously, is a variable, but size isn't really important unless it is important. You know, are you asking for a size that cannot be manufactured, or are one of the variables that you're asking the opening to comply with something that would exceed what can be done, such as the size of a door in a paired opening that needs to be a particular STC rating or maybe a particular fire rating. Okay, so when it comes to doors, hollow metal doors, they're generally flush. You can do embossed doors. Embossed is just a fancy word, I think, for saying a panel door. You can do a hollow metal door that has a 6-panel design, a 1-panel design, a 2-panel, and so on. And I've seen the process of embossing doors, and it's just simply a giant sheet. I don't have one within arm's reach, but just think of a roll of paper towels, and that's what the roll of steel looks like. And they pick this thing up with a couple of hooks in either end, with a couple of chains hanging off. They pick this roll up and they put it onto basically a paper towel holder, except it's horizontal, right? And they roll that steel off and they feed it into a machine, and that machine is generally a shear. They're going to shear the steel. They're just going to chop the steel to the particular size. Well, in the process of doing that, if you're going to emboss a door, there's literally going to be a giant die set that comes down and just smashes the door, is what it's going to end up doing. So as the steel comes off the coil, there's a large die set that just comes down and hits it. And that die set, I couldn't imagine what that costs. That die set could easily be 6 figures for all I know. And A, that's why embossed or panel doors are more expensive when it's hollow metal, because of the tooling. And B, that's why you can only do up to a certain thickness. I don't think you'll get a 6-panel door in 16 gauge. The point of the matter is there are all these elements. So size, kind of an element, but that's just what you have to know. So when it comes to elements, in no particular order when it comes to hollow metal doors, you'll be dealing with the gauge of the door. Roughly speaking, to be considered hollow metal, it'll have to be 20 gauge or 18 gauge or 16 gauge or 14 gauge. You can get heavier, but I think you leave the realm of hollow metal doors at that point. I actually think Seco can do 12 gauge doors, probably in like a ballistic rating. And just since we're speaking about gauges, the frame is typically 1 gauge heavier, or one normal gauge size heavier. So an 18 gauge door will have a 16 gauge frame. A 16 gauge door will have a 14 gauge frame, and so on. So gauge is how thick the steel is if you put a caliper on it is an element. Another element is going to be the type of steel. Is it just cold rolled steel, or is it some sort of a galvanized process? A couple of derivative types of galvanizing that will come into play, and it will be in your manufacturer's price list and in their catalog. All manufacturers, I think, are going to have different designs or styles of door, not style as in, a vertical member of the door or in an elevation design, but they'll have different models of doors. And different models of doors will range from doors that are built for common or typical applications. Maybe that same door can be built for a more economy application. Those doors can be built with different gauges of steel or types of steel to meet a particular application. The very way that the steel is sheared and bent and assembled and welded determines the design as well. I can talk about different manufacturers' door designs, but just thinking of Seco, very common, their Regent door has a mechanically interlocked vertical assembly. Seco also has doors on the edge that are fully welded, so that makes for a much stronger door. Kawani back in the old days had their E door that was a mechanically interlocked edge seam. They had their VMAX door, which was a center seam. Then they had their D series door, which was a fully welded or seamless edge. It wasn't fully welded. It was welded and then bondoed, fully bondoed. But a very durable door because it's welded on the stiles. So the different ways that doors are assembled, put together, determine the design of the door. So we've talked about size, gauge, type of steel. We've talked about the design of the door. The core of the door now. Typical cores will be honeycomb or polystyrene or polyurethane or steel stiffened. You can have proprietary cores that will handle temperature rise or acoustical types of designs or ballistic types of applications. So your core is going to be an element or a variable that you have to determine as you go along the way. And then you'll get into how is the door going to be prepped for hardware. And that pretty much applies to any door. You know, there'll be some doors that you wouldn't prep for certain hardware only because this type of hardware wouldn't be used on this type of door. So you have to be thinking all the time of what you're prepping the door for. And not only prepping, but reinforcing as well. The way I like to think of it is the door will be prepped for 5 by 4.5 0.190 butts and 86 edge. Then the next line is reinforced for surface mounted door closer. So you always have to mention what you're prepped for and then what you're reinforcing for as well. You could have a Dutch door, and that would come under the next element. I'm kind of skipping ahead. You can have different elevations of doors, light, louver. A Dutch door would be a type. A wicket door would be a type of door as well. But you could have a Dutch door, and if you don't tell the factory to reinforce the upper leaf for a Dutch door bolt, you probably won't get that. And by the way, the factory will probably ask you what the back set is. Back set's not just the edge of the door to the center of the hole for a lock. The back set's the edge of the door to the center of something, and that could be a reinforcement as well. So what it's prepped for and what it's reinforced for. And then back to the elevation. Is it a single light? Is it flush? Does it have lights in it? Does it have louvers in it? Does it have both? Does it have a panel? And one of the other items. Is it a Dutch door or is it a wicket door? Is it a communicating door? Is it double egress? So there's lots of different designs of this material. Is it double acting and has some sort of a treatment been done to either put a true radius or with an attached edge cap if you're going to do double acting? So commercial hollow metal door is a very typical and common sort of term that we use, and again, it's why we're really all here. When I detail the door, and this really just comes out of not basic, but DHI type of training, quantity, how many you need, and then a description. Flush hollow metal door or hollow metal door. And then the size, I will go with the elevation, then I will call out the gauge of steel, then I will call out the type of steel, I will call out the core, I will call out what it's prepped for, I will call out what it's reinforced for, I will call out the hand, the degree of opening, and I will give it a tag number. I will call it opening 101, something like that. So that's how I generally detail it. And all of those elements are really important to have there. Size is going to be 3070 inch and 3/4. Can you do thinner doors? Yeah, you can technically do inch and 3/8 doors. I can't say that I've seen 2 1/4 or any other thickness of doors, but not that it can't be done, but you're probably not going to see anything outside of inch and 3/4. If it's not inch and 3/8, I don't know that you'll see really anything. Why don't we switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at the definition. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here's our next definition. Commercial hollow metal door, steel door and frame products manufactured for use in office buildings, schools, hospitals, stores, and other applications. See the ANSI NAM HAMA 861 guide specification. Okay, yeah, we can probably look that up. Okay, yeah, neat guide specification. Yeah, so this is going to be boilerplate material that you're going to see in construction documents. Yeah, okay. So as distributors, we won't be generating this, but as distributors, we'll be reviewing this. Certainly before you start bidding a project, if someone sends me a list of material and they don't include this, it's problematic in the sense that they've not established a standard by which all bidders will be held responsible to bid when it comes to material types, gauges, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And I'll ask for this, and if they don't have it, then I do wonder to myself, and sometimes I ask, well, what prevents me from quoting you 20 gauge hollow metal door, honeycomb doors? Is that what your application calls for? Because someone's going to, either intentionally or unintentionally. Steel door and frame products for use in office buildings, schools, hospitals, stores, and other applications. Okay, so generic applications. So what I'd like to do is, let's hop over to the Steel Door Institute's website. And I would like to show you the recommended selection and usage guide for standard steel doors. Okay, standard in PDF. If there's probably one document that I refer to most often, it's this one, selection and usage guide. This helps us know what should the client be using. Meaning, if you get an application where a request for quote and they've not defined any standard by which you are to bid, or if you do get those documents, they're very possibly going to call out they want a level 2 model 1. Okay, that tells you exactly what you're dealing with. Level 2 model 1 is going to be an 18 gauge full flush door, meaning it could be an edge locked, an edge seam door like a Seco Regent or the old Kiwani E-Series. No one here watching this is probably familiar with that at all. But a mechanically edge-locked door. Now, if it's seamless, you're going to have to make sure that you're picking that up as a seamless door and look at your manufacturer's data for that. Level 3, Model 2 is going to be very typical. You'll see that for exterior doors or doors wider than 3 foot. Then suggested door levels and applications. So if you're dealing with a industrial building like the one I'm in right now, and it's the entrance door, you're talking level 3 or level 4 here and here. Yeah, that makes sense. I've got the main door of a 43,000 square foot building where lots of people are coming in and out. Level 3 extra heavy duty. Makes perfect sense that would be specified. Okay. Flush design door, yeah, absolutely, is what we'd be talking about there. Actually, they're not calling a flush door. They're calling one that would probably have glass, which makes sense. A main entrance would probably have glass. Down here. Would probably make perfect sense that it would probably have glass. This check right here. Sorry about that. And they obviously go through and they give us F, G, V, F, G, etc. Kind of self-explanatory. G is glass, F, G is full glass, V is vision, N is for narrow, L for louver, F for flush. Get in here and show you this stuff a little bit more. You can also do wood graining on hollow metal doors, and yep, it's just a die set that probably a couple of pinch rollers that you push the steel through, and it will leave a wood grain type of look to it. These symbols are pretty common. You'll probably end up seeing them at some point, and then a reference to other industry documents. So this table is the one that I need to refer to because I don't remember what a level 3 model 2 is. I have to look that up. Well, that's okay. You know right where to find it. Steel Door Institute, Technical Data Series. The rest of this stuff we'll probably go through at some point after we get through the glossary, but that is a good overview, I think, of a typical commercial hollow metal door. The next definition is commercial security hollow metal door. Okay, probably just going to be level 3 or level 4 doors would be my guess to refer back to our governing document. Let's move on to the next definition. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.